Hey guys, I don't think I'm okay. I really don't think I'm okay. Hello. Yeah guys, so I really like Durin. I already thought I was gonna like Durin a lot. I like Durin more than I expected to like him. And I don't really have a proper intro beyond that, so let's just talk about his kit, which despite all these massive fancy words, it really is one of the simplest in the game. He's a sword-wielding pyro off-fielder, so his normals are pretty worthless. He does become a pretty competent on-fielder with C6 Bennett giving him an infusion, but that's probably not something I'm going to spend a ton of time on today. So let's look at his skill and his burst, which are pretty deeply intertwined. By pressing E, he enters a stance where you have two further options, as indicated by these special icons on your HUD, or by the fact that Durin has a sword in one hand and a fireball in the other. Choosing one of these actions is what causes the skill to deal damage and generate particles. If you press E, Durin jumps up in the air and plunges back down. I say plunges, it's not considered plunge damage, it's still elemental skill damage, but it's a pretty simple up and down AoE. Very similar to Flynn's mini burst. Using a normal attack, we'll have him send this fire wave forward, or this claw, I guess, which deals 3 instances of damage. And the last thing that we have to talk about relating to the skill itself is actually something you probably just saw when I pulled up the scaling. It gives him flat energy generation. If Durin is in combat, using either the follow-up skill or normal attack will automatically give him flat energy. This flat energy scales with the level of his skill, so even though, as we're gonna see, his burst is responsible for the majority of his damage, you still want to level his skill, and I'm actually going to be crowning his skill, because getting more energy from his skill means that you have to build less energy to get his burst, which gives you the opportunity to build for more damage. So even though his skill isn't doing very much damage throughout your rotation, it's very impactful that you level it because of how much extra damage you can get out of his burst by having that flat energy. So let's get on to the burst. Even before we talk about any numbers, there's something weird going on here, because this is the burst symbol that I see in the menu, but when I close out, that's different. Durin's burst has 2 forms, and which form is used is dependent on which version of his skill he used last. These 2 bursts are effectively 5-star versions of Pyro Traveler's tap and hold skills. The skill version of his burst is PMC's tap skill, AoE pyro application that ticks at a faster rate. This one is centered on the enemy, unlike PMC, so it's a little more convenient that way, but each individual hit does less damage. The normal attack version of his burst is Pyro Traveler's hold skill. Higher individual multipliers, but they're single target and they hit slower. His kit calls these 2 forms the Dragon of White Flame and the Dragon of Dark Decay. I'm just gonna call him light mode and dark mode. Everyone's gonna call him light mode and dark mode, okay? It's light mode and dark mode, Durin. And then I didn't even use those phrases because I barely used dark mode Durin. Now by default, these 2 modes aren't very different, and it seems like you would always want to use dark mode, at least in single target, because it has the higher damage. But his A1 passive is really where the 2 modes diverge. In light mode, he becomes a res shredder. If any character in the party triggers any pyro reaction except for melt or vaporize, Durin shreds res for both elements involved. And then for dark mode, he basically gets the inverse, where instead of shredding res for all elements except for cryo and hydro, he boosts his own damage against cryo and hydro affected opponents. He buffs his own vaporize and melt damage. And this is actually pretty important to note, that this is not just a buff to his bursts vaporize and melt damage, it is all his vaporize and melt damage. So it matters for on-fielding him when you're vaping or melting his normal and charged attacks. Now I do have 2 more passives to go over, and boy almighty are we gonna take a long time talking about this one. But those are the basic components of Durin's kit, so before we go forward, I just want to do a quick recap so everyone knows exactly what's going on. Using skill lets him choose between using a normal attack or another skill. Using one of those will generate flat energy for him, deal damage, and generate particles. And his burst will change based on whether you use the skill or the normal attack. Skill mode, which is supportive mode, does lower damage on hit, but it hits faster, it applies pyro faster, it applies pyro and AoE, and if you trigger pyro reactions, Durin will shred res for the elements involved, as long as they're not hydro and cryo. The normal attack version of his burst, or the dark mode, does higher damage on hit and buffs Durin's own vape and melt damage, but he can't shred res, it's single target, and it hits slower. The vast majority of the time, you are going to be using light mode Durin, support Durin. I mean, I can't really call them support and DPS. That's why I want to call him light and dark, because they both deal damage. He's a damage dealer. He just deals less damage, but also shreds res in one of his modes. I guess I really should talk about his last Ascension passive before I really get into more stuff. Okay, I think I overcomplicated this passive in my original recording, so I'm gonna redo it. This talent boosts the base damage of his burst based on how much attack he has, and while that sounds really impactful, it's probably not as effective as you think it is. This passive isn't giving Durin stats that he can get from anywhere else, it's giving him an entirely new stat, a base damage increase on his burst. But because it doesn't give him a stat he can get anywhere else, it doesn't affect how you should build him. In Genshin, damage formulas are simple multiplicative equations, so the way to maximize your damage is to maximize every factor. You find every stat that your character can use, and you get them all as high as possible while finding a balance that gets the most damage. Giving him an entirely new stat doesn't cancel out his need for damage bonus, it doesn't cancel out his need for crit, it just makes attack a little stronger than it usually would be. So maybe if you have a bad pyro damage goblet and a good attack goblet with a lot of crit stats, this passive will make that attack goblet better than that pyro damage goblet, but your ideal main stats are still going to be attack, damage, crit. Not to mention, this talent has a limit. He gets 10 stacks of this effect, and then after his burst hits 10 times, it's gone. So there we go. I mean, I think that was easily the most complicated part of his kit right there. Durin is an exceedingly simple character. He just does damage, he applies pyro. If he's in light mode, he'll shred res. If he's in dark mode, he'll deal more damage. And you know what it means when a unit is really simple and doesn't require a lot? It means they're really flexible. This is why I have been so excited for Durin, because you can play him anywhere. He works in teams that have pyro requirements. He works in teams that don't have pyro requirements, but just appreciate the things that he does. He works in teams as a reaction trigger. He works in teams where he's dealing the majority damage. He's just nuts. And I haven't even talked about the hexenzirkel stuff. So we have just gotten our first round of unit buffs, which are some of the most exciting things to come to this game. And they are coming in the form of the hexenzirkel resonance. We have certain units designated as hexenzirkel units, like Fischl, like Venti, like of course Durin. And putting two of these characters in a team will give you the secret right effect. It's resonance, it's hexenzirkel resonance. And these characters get extra abilities. So actually, let's just open the book here. Actually, it's pretty convenient right now. You can kind of split these units into the top row and the bottom row, where for these units, hexenzirkel is more of a requirement to make their kits work now. And for these units, hexenzirkel is more of an incentive that just makes them a little bit better. Let's start off with Durin. Obviously, this video is about him. All hexenzirkel resonance does for him is increase the numeric effect of his A1 passive. By default, his A1 passive shreds 20% res, and it gives 40% vaporize and melt damage bonus. With another hexenzirkel member in the team, that 20% gets boosted to 35, and that 40% gets boosted to 70. Hex teams are not a hard requirement for him. He just pulls you aside at the party and he says, hey buddy, if you put me in a team with Fischl, I'll slip you a 20. And that is why I am so horribly in love with Durin's team building. Because not only is he an incredibly flexible unit who applies off-field pyro in all the ways I've asked for, and buffs in a lot of the ways that I've asked for. Not 100% all the ways that I asked for, but you know what? Res shred is fine. We'll do res shred. We'll take it because I like the rest of the stuff going on. Not only does he do every single thing that I wanted Mavuika to do, not only does he act in ways that I have described how I wanted Mavuika to act, he's also taking old units on my roster and he's giving them a facelift. Mona is a unit I want to use. Mona is a unit I want to use. I have not been having to force Mona in any teams. I have not had to I'm not trying to find scuffed things to do with Mona. She's just good. I'm using her because she's a good unit to put in that slot. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say. I'm ecstatic that I get to use a Mona. The context of Durin has completely reinvented Mona for me, has completely reinvented Venti. Oh my god, we need to talk about Venti this video. When I get Albedo, I will be gluing them together. And just so I'm 100% clear, like, these are not Durin specific effects. These effects unlock with any 2 hex array units. Durin is just easily the best hex array unit right now. I mean, I don't really think that's controversial. He's fighting a bunch of 1.05 stars. It's like Sucrose and Fischl are his strongest competition by a long shot. But Durin has given me access to so many teams that I've wanted to play with Mavuika, and he has made these teams better, and he has made other bad units on my account also better while doing it. I can't get over it. I can't get over it. The joy of just having a level 80 Mona suddenly become an extremely useful unit to have on my account is mind-blowing. This is one of the rare situations where I don't think I was hyped enough for these characters. I am way happier with Mona, with Venti, with Durin than I thought I would be. Now, before we talk about more team stuff, I should probably address the elephant in the room. Yeah, I got the weapon, but it's not leveled. And also it's not relatable, so I'm not gonna be using it this video. I am going to be sticking to Alley Flash. High base attack, it's a damage bonus effect that disables when the user takes damage, so it works pretty well for an off-fielder like Durin. I mean, this is one of the 4 stars on this banner. It's meant to be the stand-in for his Sig. So I'm running Alley Flash, and I'm just gonna stick on Noblesse for the whole video. I'm sorry, I can't be bothered to switch around artifacts. There are a lot of contexts in which you should use different sets for him. Crimson Witch is currently his best DPS set, but don't farm it because who knows? Maybe there's a hexenzirkel artifact set coming out in who knows? 19 days, 6 hours, 4 minutes, and another 3 weeks. So 40 days, 6 hours, and 4 minutes. So yeah, right now, Crimson Witch is his highest personal damage. I think some situations, if your energy needs somehow get particularly high, if you don't want to bother leveling his skill, Emblem can be an effective set. And then in Dendro teams, he runs Deepwood. But generically, Noblesse is a very good set for him. It's burst damage bonus. Almost all of his damage is burst damage, and he benefits from the 20% attack buff that it gives. So it's just a good combination supportive and DPS set for now. He has a few good set options, but I'm just gonna be sticking with Noblesse because I'm lazy. So starting with this team, it's really funny because it's just a SETHOS aggravate team, but we replaced our res shredder. Fischl is the aggravate unit. You're not playing aggravate if you're not playing Fischl. Nahida's a strong dendro plier. She's an EM buffer. She is a decent damage dealer, but she previously could cause some issues with getting an electro aura on your enemy and getting an electro swirl, therefore getting your res shred from VV. But with Durin, we're not having that problem. To shred res, all he needs are pyro reactions, and you're getting pretty consistent burning triggers and pretty consistent overload triggers. So that's all pyro, dendro, and electro res shred taken care of. And also Fischl is conveniently also a Hexen unit, so she enables the extra res shred on Durin and her own buffs, which are a few stat buffs that are based on what reactions your team is triggering. If you trigger an overloaded, you get 22.5% attack to herself and your on-fielder. If you trigger an electrocharge or a lunacharge, it's 90 EM. With C6, those numbers get doubled to 45% attack and 180 EM, which is kind of stupid, and I'm not gonna pretend it's not. She didn't need that. She didn't need that. It's ridiculous. Not complaining, just stating. So it's SETHOS' old best in slot team, but now we have a res shredder for all the elements involved, who is also dealing a bit of personal damage by himself, and enabling Fischl to further buff mostly herself, because we're not getting any lunacharge triggers, we're only getting overload triggers, we're getting an attack buff, and SETHOS doesn't really care about attack buffs, but she does buff herself, so that is meaningful for her damage. In any case, Durin just kind of slid into aggravate teams and slotted weirdly well, and now SETHOS has a new best team again. Yay! This happens like every other patch now. You guys, you can probably stop telling me that SETHOS has a new best team, because I can just assume that a new unit will give SETHOS a new best team. Oh yeah, also fun decision here because there isn't a defensive slot. I don't actually think it's desperately necessary because you can just use SETHOS's properties as a ranged unit to avoid taking damage. But if you really want a defensive option, just put Nahida on her Sig, guys. Come on, it's free. You can craft it. They were nice enough to give Nahida's Sig as a craftable, and you guys are just ignoring it. no. And you're gonna see throughout this video, because I don't have his skill fully leveled up, I'm probably gonna run into a few energy issues. Oh wow, that was terrible. That was terrible gameplay. Man, trust me, I promise I'm a SETHOS player. Most of this video is probably gonna be talking more about what Durin actually does for a team, because as I've been over, he is not really a crazy complicated unit. What is so interesting about him are his implications for team building and how he makes you want to slot in other Hex units, or how he makes you want to slot in himself to teams where other Hex members already exist. So going from one of those teams where we already have a hexenzirkel that exists and we can throw in Durin to get a bunch of extra free value, let's go to a team where we include a Hexen unit because of Durin. So I was suspicious about this team. I was suspicious about this team because I did a little bit of testing before the buffs came out, running Xinyan, who has the same application as support Durin does. I guess I should quickly talk about what Mona actually does. In her base kit, her burst, she buffs a bunch of damage bonus up to 60%, talent level 10. Her biggest issue is that her buff only lasts 5 seconds. It does last more than 5 seconds. There are a lot of odd rules about that, but I don't want to get into that right now. Please, just, it has a short uptime is the point. And she has kind of high energy needs because she never catches her particles on field. Her Hexen buffs have fixed both of those issues in one fell swoop by requiring her to do a few normal attacks on field to extend the duration of her burst. Each normal attack hit extends the burst by 2 seconds, up to 8 seconds, so you got a normal attack 4 times. So now, she skills, she bursts, she does a few normal attacks. Those make it so that the burst lasts longer, and you can just benefit from the effects of the buff for longer. But doing those normal attacks gives her a little bit time to stand on field for her skill to explode so she catches the particles, which heavily reduces her functional ER needs and lets her run more supportive weapons like TTDS. So Mona is like just a good unit now. She just is straight up nice. She has good buffing options. The buff in her kit actually, like, it lasts a decent amount of time and it like works now. Her constellations give you a few more buffs to her burst, so of course extending her burst makes all of these buffs last a lot longer and matter a lot more. Aside from just getting extra effects, like she buffs EM now. She's a full party EM buffer at C2. All of these buffs make her a unit that's actually really worth considering if you can get the Hexen resonance. So yeah, Durin's opening a lot of doors to Mona. So we end up with whatever this is. If we're using Durin as a res shredder for flins, then we can slot Mona right in. She gets all those buffs and she becomes a really strong option. I was initially testing this team with Xinyan before, you know, Durin and the buffs came out, because she has the same application as support Durin does. And I never had enough Hydra with Mona. Don't know what changed. Oh, I don't think I have the right artifacts. Oh no, I do have the right artifacts on flins. But yeah, I seem to never have enough Hydra to get that second mini burst with flins, because he needs to be triggering Electrocharge. He needs to have the Thunderclouds up to get that additional instance of Lunar Charge damage on his burst, which is the majority of damage on his mini burst. So when I was testing it out before, Mona didn't have enough Hydro to get that second Thundercloud up for Flynn's second mini burst. I don't know what changed, but it works now. You may be able to see in this rotation, the Hydra R itself, yeah, now the Hydra R is gone. I'm not getting it back because Mona doesn't have any off-field Hydro apart from her skill, which does that really count? It lasts like 5 seconds. It actually might last exactly 5 seconds now that I look at that. The Hydra aura is gone, but the Thundercloud is maintained long enough that Flynn can still get both hits on his second mini burst. And I wanted to come back and shout out kind of, I guess, a more free-to-play variant version of this team, where you replace Mona with Ino to meet your Nod Cryo requirements, and you replace Anefa with Fischl to meet your Hex requirements. Flynn is a character where it's so easy to reach his maximum DPS. Almost all his damage is condensed within 2 periods of total invulnerability for him. Because of that, I like playing him in no sustain and forcing myself to engage with enemy mechanics, and this is a really fun version of that. Oh, beautiful. My third team on the roster rounds out the 3 types of Durin teams. The ones where you say, there's not a hexenzirkel unit that's good here, so I'm just gonna run Durin by himself. Yeah, as I mentioned, he doesn't have any sort of hexenzirkel requirements. He has an incentive, and I really like that incentive. I like running a lot of hexenzirkel units with him. But if you can't conceivably get value out of another hexenzirkel unit in the team, whatever. He'll just do a little bit less res shred. It's not a big deal. I don't know. I think this one is maybe the least surprising. Kinich has a pyro requirement. Durin is a pyro support. He shreds res. Like, yeah, obviously you're gonna use him here. Kinich does not have a great pyro option in this slot. You're pretty much fighting between PMC and Mavuika, who are actually very, very competitive in Kinich teams. Because Kinich teams don't have good setups for Mav to deal a lot of damage, her personal damage matters a lot less. And their buffs are extremely similar. They both hold scroll, and Mavuika gives 40% decaying bonus on burst. PMC gives a static 15% on skill. But now we have a unit who is shredding res, who is dealing significant damage themselves, who is... Oh no, I guess that's kind of it. I did say he was simple. Still, whatever, it's cool. I like off-field damage dealers. Did you guys know that? Did you guys know that my 3 favorite units in the game are all off-field damage dealers? Were you guys aware? I don't know, I'll show it off. There's not really much nuance to it, but I'll show off the team. So I actually want to see, because I've been struggling with actually getting a Dendro scroll proc in this team if I do Durin before Yansan, and I want to do that for the sake of uptime. Did I get a... I did. I got a quicken proc there. I died for it, but I got my quicken proc there through Durin burst, so you can go in that order. Yeah, probably the biggest issue with Durin is that he does this. His burst just lasts way too long, and if you're out of combat, it just pulses around you and it burns all the grass, and it makes you take a bunch of damage. Actually, I'm kind of interested in seeing if, like, Durin's double skill... the camera moves, so I gotta imagine that counts as, like, movement for Yansan's burst, right? It's gotta. Wait a little bit, let the Night's Soul decay. Double skill. Oh yeah, that counts. Oh yeah, that counts. Did I just give 5 cannons while doing a double slide on the second hit? That's ridiculous. I got 5 cannons while playing like absolute garbage. That's why we love Emily, guys. That is the real reason why you pull Emily, because she makes 5 cannon each free, even if you suck. All right, let me finally do a full rotation so I can move on to the next team. Let me make sure I got it. I think I did. I did. Jeez. Alright, well, couldn't even do a full rotation. He died too fast. Durin too good, Durin too cracked. And I'm not even using the Sig, which I got it because it's an attack buffing weapon. I got it so Durin could turn into an attack buffer for all the units that I want to use him with, like Kinich, like Flins, like wriothesley. All right, I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna shut up. Next team. Next team. Oh. I legitimately forgot this team was next. Some of you may be asking, why are you bothering playing Burn Melt? Durin doesn't shred Cryo Res. He's not really buffing wriothesley at all here. What purpose is wriothesley servicing? You must be new here. I play wriothesley because I think he's hot and I want him to kill me, and even though Durin isn't providing any sort of direct buffs to wriothesley, it's a combination of shredding res for himself and Emily, who... That's Emily. Do I have to explain to you why I want to use Emily? And additionally, Durin has some gameplay benefits that I didn't account for. Because his burst has such long uptime, it's a 20-second duration ability. You can use it second in your rotation right after Emily. Pyro players like Mavuika and Xinyan have much shorter durations. I believe C0 Mavuika matches Shinyan at 12 seconds. So to get full uptime on your pyro application, to get all your melts with Wriothesley, you need to use them after you use Bennett. Durin, having a long uptime ability, lets him go earlier in the rotation, so Bennett can go last, and Wriothesley can swap right in and get full uptime on Bennett's buff. Which matters because Wriothesley actually does like to spend a decent amount of time on field, especially at C1 where he gets a 4-second extension. By being able to go earlier in the rotation, Durin is giving me an indirect buff to Wriothesley because he lets me get Bennett's buff to Wriothesley for a longer period of time. Oh, and also I pulled his Sig. Yeah, this is the team that I pulled it for. Was it wise? No. If you are somehow in the exact same situation as I am, this is one of your favorite teams and you are looking for any way to improve it, Durin Sig is probably not the best thing you could pull, but I care about Durin a lot. I see myself using him a lot in the future. So to get him a weapon that turns him into a little bit of an attack buffer, and also, like, it's not just his weapon. I can put this on other units. I found it to be valuable enough that I really wanted to go for this sword. So through the combination of giving him more Bennett uptime and giving him a little bit of attack with this weapon, he actually is doing a little bit for Wriothesley here. Is kinich better in this slot? Yes. Is that the point? I'll let you answer that yourself. This is just a team that can be used, and it's gonna feel a lot better with Durin. All right, who's up next? Oh, it's Burgeon. I'll admit it, I haven't even played this one yet, and it is going to be absolutely gimped by the fact that Durin is only level 70. He's my Burgeon trigger here, so I really want him to be level 90. But like, he applies Pyro pretty quickly in AoE, and he potentially shreds Dendro res. So Durin is like kind of a cracked Burgeon trigger. This is the one really funky build path where you actually want to do something different than attack pyro crit. This was a team in which I was kind of on fielding Lauma. I don't know. I haven't played it yet. Well, let's figure this out together. Let's see how this team works. It can work in 1,000 different ways. At the end of the day, you just need a Dendro, you need a Hydro. You probably are gonna want 2 Hydros. I personally find that Burgeon works a lot better with double Hydro, but there probably are some combinations that I'm not thinking of. Wait, I was supposed to use hold skill. Okay, alright, that was weird and scuffed, and I kind of struggled to find a rotation for a little bit. But, I don't know, I think that works fine. It seems to play kind of like a Nilou Bloom team to me, where it's fairly quick swappy, you're just doing your best to keep no aura on the enemy, you're trying to trigger as many reactions as you can. If there's Dendro, you swap to Hydro, if there's Hydro, you swap to Dendro. That's the joy. Oh, that's not even my order. Let's do this. What? That's the joy. Okay, I did the wrong one. I accidentally did the click instead of the double E. That's the joy of having 2 catalyst units on the team, is what I was gonna say. You can just always swap your application when you need to. Yeah, I'm like not really playing that well, but I guess I don't play Burgeon. But also, it seems like I was watching some Burgeon triggers, and it seems like, in a weird way, the damage version of his burst can still trigger Burgeons. Does it have like an AoE hitbox or something like that? You still don't want to go damage mode Durin because obviously he shreds res in light mode. Also, I started off the video by saying I was gonna call him light and dark mode, and then I just didn't do that. You want him in light mode because he shreds res, and obviously that's impactful for your bloom damage, or your Burgeon damage. Where's the bloom? Oh, okay. Yeah, it just seems like it does have... Actually, that's like a... That seemed to be a fairly large AoE hitbox. The bloom was like sitting over here on the ground, and when it hit this guy, it still triggered a Burgeon somehow. I guess it's like a Pyro Traveler's skill, where while it's traveling through the air, it does like home in on a single target, but once it actually hits the target, it spawns a little AoE explosion that can hit other targets. Primarily single target, but can work in AoE. That's good to know. I guess it's good that I tested burgeon. Next team is... Oh, okay. All right. I guess we'll kind of get into this now. This is maybe getting outside of the scope of this video because I am talking about an entirely different character. I've already talked about how much I appreciate my Mona because, oh my god, she was a dead unit who was sitting in my account. All these constellations were pretty useless until like 2 days ago, and now I'm using her. She's good. I enjoy her. And wouldn't you know it, they also did the same thing to Venti, a unit that I actually had to spend Primogems to get. When I pulled Venti, I was well aware it was a bad decision. I was like, I know I'm wasting my Primos, but I like Venti. I want Venti on my account. I think he has funny black hole stuff. And with these buffs, Venti's also becoming one of my favorite units. Now, a lot of these buffs are focused on just making Venti into an Animo DPS, which is fun. I am enjoying that side of Venti, but if that was all he had, I probably wouldn't even be making this section in the video. So blah, 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 whatever. When he uses his burst, he gets infused normal attacks, and those normal attacks get increased scaling. It also extends the duration of his burst by 2 seconds, so it makes that deal a little bit more talent damage by just the nature of it existing longer. That's all cool and good. Yay, yippee. Let's check this other talent though. While the Storm Eye created by Elemental Burst Wind's Grand Ode is active, for 4 seconds after a nearby active character triggers a swirl reaction, that character's damage is increased by 50%, and Venti's Storm Eye deals 135% of its original damage. Again, Venti just deals more damage, and usually, because he's an on-fielder, he will be the one triggering the swirls, and he will be the one getting the damage bonus. But it's not limited to him. Any character that triggers a swirl on field gets that 50% damage bonus. So already that's looking like a decent supportive utility for any Animo unit. Not only is he doing significant off-field damage and a little bit of grouping depending on the exact content you're going into, he also can potentially buff an Animo on-fielder. And you know what Durin does that next to no units in the game do? He shreds Animo Res. Yes, I have Faron in this team because Faron is Faron and she's still unbelievably cracked and stupid and ridiculous, but Durin and Venti together provide an extremely strong backbone for Animo DPSs if you don't have C6 Faron. This is massive. We finally have alternatives to DPSing Animo characters other than Faron. I'm still running Faron because she's Faron and she's ridiculous. Even though I have substantial alternatives, that doesn't stop me from putting Faron's buffs on top of the existing ones. But because of how they don't seem to want to fix how 4-star acquisition works in this game, and you can never guarantee a C6 4-star, having viable alternatives, even if those viable alternatives do require you to pull 2 limited units, these 2 limited units can at least be guaranteed. Another cool thing is that while Faron is pretty much solely an Animo buffer, all her buffs are Animo damage related, Durin and Venti are a lot more flexible supports. Durin is Durin. This entire video is about him. You know how flexible he is. I probably don't have to tell you. But he can shred res for multiple other elements on top of just Animo. And while Venti does require you to trigger a swirl to get that damage bonus buff, it's an all damage bonus buff. It's not just Animo. So of course, this is relevant to absorptions. Animo units that do talent damage of other elemental types. I mean, we're already looking at him right here. Venti's own burst absorbs. Kazuha's skill and burst absorbs. A decent portion of Lanyan's skill motion value is absorbed elemental damage. Let's talk about someone who I fear will get a little bit neglected this patch. I'm so sorry. But Yehoda has off-field damage, but it's not Animo. The Meow Balls are her source of off-field damage, and she gets those by absorbing other elements and spitting them back out. Meow Ball damage can't be Animo damage. When it comes to her burst, the personal coordinated Ascensus robot damage can be Animo, but if it attacks an enemy with a swirlable element on him, it'll convert and the rest of its damage for that rotation will be non-Animo. And Yehoda is actually a unit that you can reasonably DPS at C6. Her multipliers aren't bad, and she gives this 50 crit value buff to herself as well as the rest of the party. So Venti and Durin make up a really strong core for buffing Animo units that aren't only dealing Animo damage. And I know you're probably all thinking the saddest part about all this, the saddest casualty is indeed Chaska. She can trigger swirls to trigger Venti's buffs, and she deals almost entirely non-Animo damage, so she doesn't benefit from Faron basically at all. But of course, to guarantee all your bullet generation, Chaska asks that you have 3 swirlable element units in your party of 3 different swirlable elements. And Venti is Animo. Venti is Animo, so he ruins everything. So sorry, Chaska, I wish you had it better. Although Durin is still going to be a very strong option with her. Let's stop talking about units that I don't have, and let's start looking at the units that I do have, and the units that I enjoy. Actually, I am just gonna do the classic. The classic. Hamber Mona on Song of Days Past, the classic. This is one of those situations where it's like, Mona should be the one on Noblesse, and then Durin should be on a better damaging set. Oh, he should be on a damaging set. Cool, good thing I checked that. This is one of those teams where Mona should be on Noblesse, and then Durin should be on a better damaging set, but I don't care to swap artifacts, so this is what you get. It's not like you guys need to see the exact damage that the team is supposed to do anyways. You just need to know that I am gearing it wrong and that you should gear it right. Honestly, the worst part about DPS Venti is that I've had to swap him off of Fav, and now I like actually have situations where Venti's burst is off cooldown but not available to be used. This is just like a foreign concept to me. Oh yeah, also yeah, I did lose the 50-50 on Durin's weapon, but I was fine with it. That's why I went on the banner, because I was fine with getting this weapon. It's a Venti weapon, and I've been enjoying Venti a lot in this form, and also, it's a Fischl weapon, which is obviously far more important, because Fischl desperately needed the buff. She is not good enough, guys. She really, really needed me to pull a specific new best-in-slot weapon for her. Yeah, alright, well, I missed the, whatever. And obviously, yeah, my Venti weapon is not leveled at all. So this damage is not representative. But this is just kind of a very basic concept of a Venti on-field team. There's nothing particularly special. It's just kind of a lot of units that do a lot of different buffing for him, and that don't restrict him to circle impact, because I like doing dash cancels on him, even though I know I should be doing, God, I can't do them right. Aim cancels, where you like double tap the aim button. That's his combo, by the way. Don't have to wait to the Venti video to get that one. Optimal DPS Venti combo of just getting out as many normal attacks as you can. That's not really surprising. It's N2 aim cancel. Normal 1, normal 2, double tap R, and you get a pretty fast cancel. God, I'm bad at these. I need to practice. I haven't gotten any sort of practice with aim cancels like that. I usually do short hold charge attacks. We'll do one more. Oh God, Durin energy needs my guy. Oh, okay, never mind. He met him. Oh wait, no, not Venti. I'm so used to going Venti not last because I've been running him as a support. I'm just gonna spam normal attacks. I'm not gonna do any sort of combo. Boom. Oh, I didn't crit on my last normal. Yippee, DPS Venti exists. I don't care. Let's talk about support Venti. My go-to Animo team for the past few days has just been replacing Mona with whatever Animo unit I want to use in the slot. It's been Aoife, because of course it's been Aoife. Who else would it be? Anyan functions, Lynette functions, Hazo functions. I feel like I've done a lot of Animo DPSing stuff in the past, so maybe this time I'll just cave and give the people what they want. Nothing special about Wanderer at all. He is just a generic stand-in for any Animo DPS that will function about the same, but I know people are gonna ask for it. I know you Wanderer Durin fans are going crazy in the comments, and that's not a slight. That's not a slight. I think that's beautiful. I think forcing units together, even when they don't work, is great, and Durin and Wanderer do work together, so it's not even a problem. Durin isn't horrible for Wanderer or any other Animo DPS for that matter, but I do think that if you really, really want to be using Wanderer and Durin together, you might also want to go for Venti. It really is how they work together that make them a decent core for Animo DPSs. Do your normals so you can extend his burst length. Oh God, I didn't put any artifacts or weapons on Wanderer, did I? Okay, alright. Sorry, Wanderer fans. This time, this lander actually isn't warranted. This one's my fault. Ooh, he's gripping that Tupac. Ooh, he's gripping that thing. Alright, normal to extend Venti bursts again. So that's also, I don't know, this is like becoming kind of a venti video in a weird way. Ooh, 50k charge attacks. It's not the highest I've seen. I've seen 70Ks out of him, but considering this is a team court that is doing a lot of on-field damage other than just Wanderer, it, from my testing, it performs pretty similarly to his more kind of strict hyper carry teams, but it takes some of the pressure to perform off of Wanderer. You don't need to play him well because you have other units doing damage, so if you mess up on your combos, if you don't get your timings right, then you're not completely screwed over. Let me do another one with normal attack spam because I know you guys are also probably gonna ask for that.
Get him!
Oh, if that burst had just actually targeted properly and landed, I think I could have one rotated him. Let's try it again. And I'm also level 20 venti weapon, by the way. Oh, and getting stun locked out of Scara midair. Oh god. Yeah, that one was horrible. I mean, if you can't tell how much your performance on Wanderer actually matters, even in this team where I was saying it matters less, it still matters a lot. Wanderer is just a unit who's like that. He does require some skill to optimize, and because he's not the best, you probably do want to be optimizing him if you want to play him in a lot of endgame content. Ooh, alright. God, if I had played a little bit better there as well. Die, funny man. I think that's enough of the Animo stuff for now. Maybe I would just like to end off with a really strong last team core from Durin that a lot of people have been looking at. Yeah, it's Overload. Fischl isn't as dominant in Overload as she is in Aggravate, but she's still an incredibly strong unit worth considering at a baseline before even factoring in the hexenzirkel stuff. Let me remove Yai to make my point here. With this team structure, you are getting 75% Pyro and Electro Res Shred. You can get a team-wide 40% attack from a fully built Chevy, and a 22.5% attack buff from Fischl to herself and your on-fielder that gets boosted to 45% at C6. With both of these 4 stars at C6, that is 75% Res Shred on both elements, with 85% attack, and up to 60% damage bonus to your on-fielder. Oh yeah, and it also has 2 of the strongest off-field damage dealers in the game. This is a ridiculous core. This is especially impactful for someone like me, who does not have good overload options. Varesa, Mavuika, Arlecchino, and Clorand are pretty much the 4 premium overload carries, and I have none of them. All my Pyro and Electro carries don't really love being run in overload teams. Some of them will function, but it's not great. So when accounting for the fact that I also do not have C6 Chevy, to be clear, it's not like this is a massive game-changing constellation, but when you're working with suboptimal stuff, getting smaller improvements like this is much more important than when you're just playing meta teams. Basically, Varesa doesn't need C6 Chevy to comfortably clear content, but Pyro Traveler might. So I've kind of had weak options for overload on my account for a fairly long time, and Durin has come in and blown that out of the water. I mean, I guess it's not really surprising because looking at this team, these are legitimately just 3 of the strongest units in the game. I think I could make legitimate arguments to put all of these units in top 10. This core makes Overload a really functional team for basically any unit. My first instinct to put in this slot was Yanfei, just because I could. So let's play some Yanfei, guys. Oh, I was supposed to charge attack first so I could use my seals. Sorry guys. Fake Yanfei fan.
Yeah, one cycle Yanfei with bad play.
That's how you know it's good, when I can 1 rotate this guy with bad Yanfei play of all units. Can't wait for her buffs. Can't wait to see how they make her better than Klee again. That was fun, so I'm gonna do one more time. Oh no. You missed, Yanfei. That's not okay. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I didn't care to do a Durin burst for that. That was too much work. Yippee, it's fun. It's really strong. It's a lot of numbers going on. It's strong. Damage happens. So I recorded the video and I got done editing most of it, and then I realized that I basically did not activate or talk about dark mode Durin at all past the basic kit explanation. And sorry if that's something you were really looking forward to, but I just don't like it. To me, Durin is so much more engaging because of his supportive potential. If I wanted a pyro offfielder that did damage, I would use Xiangling or I would have pulled Mavuika. Additionally, it's not like his support mode doesn't deal damage. The multipliers are still pretty decent, and he shreds res for himself. So that's why I basically just don't see myself using damage mode Durin. I just don't think it's worth it, and I think he's much more fun when he's played as an enabler instead of when you're trying to work the team around him. But I should at least give you guys one rotation. And I can talk a little bit more about Mona. Aside from just giving her buffs, Hoyo specifically geared most of these buffs towards being usable with DPS Durin. Mona now has a thing where she grants your entire team vaporize damage bonuses when she does normal attacks. So the idea is to on-field Mona, do some driving, do some normal attacking, while Durin eats away those vaporize stacks and triggers some big numbers. So let's see how big numbers we can get with this funny, not fully built Durin. I'm so used to support mode that I just, like, when I was trying to figure out this rotation, I just automatically did support mode burst. There we go. Damage mode. Come on, big numbers. 82k, 72k, that's unvaped. 92k is vaped. Yeah, it's like the numbers from this aren't bad. Okay, well now they're getting a little bit bad because our buffs are running out. But by no means is that an unviable playstyle. And of course it's still good with other units. It's just that Mona was specifically meant to do the job. That's kind of the intended DPS Durin team, but there's also a little bit of flexibility you can do. You can throw in Bennett to get your infused normal attacks like I mentioned. Of course, Bennett is just an attack buffer and Durin is an attack scaler, so it's not just for the infusion. Just like with the supportive stuff, there's a lot of things you can do. I don't know, is that a good way to end off the video? I guess it is. It feels like it to me, because that's really what Durin provides. He provides a bunch of options for cores, and as someone who loves team flexibility and doing stupid stuff, a unit that pairs with a bunch of other units that I already have, like, and have built, and creates different team cores with each and every one of them? I mean, just take my money. Just take my money. And I guess this is the part of the video where I acknowledge the title, because this is just everything I wanted from Mavuika. He has a significant damage profile, so you still want to build him to be dealing damage, but he's not dealing so much that he is the centerpiece of the team and that he takes away from other units. He has a lot of very, very flexible supportive capability. He has incentives, but not requirements to be run with specific units. And those incentives don't just provide things to himself, they provide things to the other teammates. And is it unfair to say, wow, I love Durin so much because he lets me use Venti's buffs? Yeah, it's kind of unfair. At the end of the day, that is Venti's buff. Durin is not the one doing that. That's all Venti. But it seems to me that Durin was pretty clearly made as an extremely flexible unit so that he could be run with all these different hexenzirkel units and enable them without interfering so much. Like, of course, Durin giving Venti Animo Red Shred so he can DPS better. Anyways, I think that's most of what I have to say. I am in love with Durin. This unit is incredible. Not only is he an incredibly flexible unit that works as glue in a lot of the odd scuff teams that I love playing on my account, he's in an archetype that I have been sorely lacking and I have been feeling that I have been lacking it ever since Mavuika's come out. Not only does he fill that same slot as Mavuika's off-field application, but provide a more supportive edge to it. It was also designed around creating team cores with a bunch of old characters that I didn't really enjoy or use very much, and he changed them into characters that I look out for, I like, and I don't even have to like make excuses to use them. They're just good now. Like, I'm telling you guys, I didn't get Durin Sig on a whim. I do really like Durin this much. This is the first time I have ever pulled for a signature weapon on a unit's debut banner. I have never done this before. But Durin is different, and I don't fully expect that Genshin is going to keep going down the path of Durin, and ultimately him being able to do as many things as he does is power creep. But I kind of just have settled for the fact that I think power creep is just gonna be a thing in Genshin from here on out. And if it's gonna happen, this is the way to do it. Flexible units that can fit in a lot of different creative team archetypes that lift the rest of the cast up with them instead of going ahead themselves and pushing everybody else down. Whether that improvement is direct through straight up buffs that are introduced to a character's kit, whether that is Durin affecting setups and allowing you to get longer durations on your buffs, or whether it's just giving units new options for good teams, so they aren't bound in chains to the same 3-year-old C6 4-star. Why did they hate Wanderer so much? Anyways, I don't know if you guys can tell. I am in love with Durin. I don't even know what to say. How can I end this video? I think I won't. I think I'm just gonna read off my channel members. Thank you to Dorsalfin from twitch.tv/Dorsalfin1. Nadrido, oh my god, wait. Rumpaltas? You changed the way you spelled your name. Pegby, Dottiz, Do, ZachZDR. Oh my god, Mudkip172 is now Mudkip1727. Why are you guys all changing your names? Big Soup, Buffalo Milk, DB, Bab, Aqua, AZ Bite, Pyre's Flower, Starnova, and we have 2 new members since the last video. Thank you for joining Tede Rose, and TSI Amat, I have to specifically shout you out because you joined while I was streaming and I forgot to thank you. So thank you for joining members. I appreciate your support. I hope y'all learned something. Have a lovely day.